Hello's my Valorant patch notes rundown for 7.08. It's a fairly small patch, so we're going to get straight into it. First of all, the general updates. There's going to be additional row now, and it's going to be a bit harder to interlock your agent sometimes, at least for a bit until you get used to it. Agent updates, smoke visual update. I'm going to go over that at the end of the video. Ability equipping sounds are no longer audible to your allies, so when you do hear a sound from your allies, the odds are that the enemy team, if they're in range, they can hear it. This is just a bit more consistent with equipping guns, but it does have that real like effect when you can hear your ally make sound. You know that the enemy team has heard it as well. Premium updates. So there's a 15-minute window now instead of an hour window. So this means that there's going to be quite a few players that probably can't play anymore because they have real life commitments or something like that. That will allow them to be able to catch the 1 hour but not catch the 15 minutes. So I can imagine that this is not the greatest of change for some people, as it just stops them outright from playing Premier sometimes. But for the people that can play, they do get better brackets, more evenly distributed along Premier score, so you should, in theory, get closer games and better games overall. Less landslide victories for clearly better teams. That shouldn't happen as much anymore, because you shouldn't be like matched up with those clearly better teams. Store updates. You went to search, not really that important for me, but searching for like level boards, player cards should be in the game to begin with anyway. But yeah, nice for people that want to use that. Bug fixes, so there is one for Neon in Fracture, but Fracture's out of rotation, so it doesn't really matter. Annihilation no longer opens the breeze mid shoot, which is kind of useless because that area of the map is kind of useless now anyway. This one kind of matters in some ways, like one option that she had on Bind sometimes. Overall, pretty niche though. I wouldn't necessarily call it a nerf, especially because of how weak she's already anyway. I mean, she's already nerfed into the ground. It doesn't really matter that she gets nerfed again. She's still useless. She's useless into useless. Like, it doesn't really matter. This one doesn't really matter. She will get buffed eventually. Either probably next patch or the patch after. I imagine probably not on ISO's patch. I reckon she's going to get buffed on the patch after, just because then they would have to keep an eye on ISO and deadlock. And that might be a bit crazy unless the deadlock changes aren't too big, maybe. But I imagine they would have to be quite big for an deadlock to actually come back into any sort of meta. So we'll see. We shall see is the best way to talk about these patch notes, future patch notes for Riot. I think just we will see, because you don't know what they're gonna do sometimes, especially when it comes to like what agents are going to be released or what agents are going to be reworked, etc., or like how they're going to be reworked. Can be a bit of a question mark sometimes. Fix a bug where the music would hitch, and fix the shooting range bots not reset their hitbox properly. It's kind of okay, it doesn't really do anything. Fix a bug. I mean, this is quite nice sometimes for like shooting the range. Quite nice. I warm up in the range and generally practice aiming in the range, so quite nice to have. Everything consistent. Player behavior, fixed ranked rating penalties for disruptive behavior. That's good. And fix a bug where the killban audio was playing too quietly. I know a lot of people going crazy. I was going crazy when I was using the Prime Vandal sometimes, where it was just so quiet that I didn't know what to do. It felt weird. But yeah. Then we go on to the smoke visual update changes. Okay, so I'm going to read out this part. Some of the key smokes can manipulate the player space for a good chunk of time, and we feel it is important to be able to make the right decisions in the moment. We've added audio and visual cues at the end of our longer lasting smokes, give you a bit of a heads up for when the smoke will disappear. Smokes play an audio and visual cue at 1.5 seconds before they are about to fade. The following agent smokes have been affected: Astra, Brimstone, and Omen. So I've actually tested these out a tiny bit. So Astra's fake smokes aren't affected, and realistically, the only agent at these three that can react off this 1.5 second window is Astra if the star is pre-placed. Obviously, I'm not the best, so when it comes to like reaction time off this 1.5 seconds, there's probably going to be better players that can react for the Omen smoke. So I was pre-placing the Omen smoke on like the like different mode of your smoke where you can actually see, and I couldn't personally do it. I imagine it gets harder as you increase the range because there is a travel time. Brimstone doesn't have as much of a travel time. The sky smokes sort of come down instantly. I think it takes like 0.5 seconds for them to land, maybe a bit less. I think it's 0.5 seconds. So as long as you can get the 3DS out and place your smoke in the 1 second, then it means that the Brimstone smoke can like be reacted to in some ways. Before it goes down, right? I don't think you can overlap the smokes properly though. I think it's really, really hard to react off this 1.5 second window and overlap your smokes basically with these 3 agents. With other agents though, I was thinking like, are there actually any right decisions being made in these 1.5 seconds window, in this 1.5 second window? And I don't actually know if that is the case. I'm going to just quickly look at this. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. It just has a little bit of a send to it too, like that. And I'm trying to think like, do any abilities actually allow you to like make a meaningful different decision than you were already making that actually became the right decision because the smoke was going down? Like, is there actually a situation? I mean, there could be. There definitely is. Okay, I'm going to be real. There definitely is situations where you can make a different right decision based off this information. There is definitely going to be a specific situation. I just don't know when that will be, and I don't know how often that will be. There are going to be agents that definitely benefit more from this. So, for instance, Jet and Chamber technically indirectly buffed from this in some ways because they have a repositioning ability that is able to be done within 1.5 seconds. So technically, it is maybe a buff to those agents in some regard because they are able to actually react off this information. And I don't think there's many agents that can. So it's quite difficult to call like big situations as well based on like what agents can actually make use of this information. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what type of change this kind of is and why it's kind of good for the game to have these types of changes. And it's important that it doesn't affect the higher reloads of play. So I'm going to do this by talking about LoL patch notes first. So in League, they do this key, right? And it talks about their role, and then it talks about the average, skilled, elite, and pro league. So it's a key to determine like what change means what for what skill level, basically. And so you can see Rek'Sai, it only affects elite. Renekton only affects elite and pro. So I imagine that these smoke changes are only affecting the average and the skilled brackets. And obviously, it might be different for Valorant. They might do it on a rank per basis. They're going to have a different way to do it. Not quite the same way as what Elite. And the reason why this is important is because this type of change is one that affects the barrier to entry of the game. And it allows the game to be a bit more accessible to players. So people in the average skill bracket, there's going to be new players that just enter the average skill bracket and have no idea what they're doing. And these type of changes can really help them have fun in the game. And that's really important, retain your new players. So this type of change is really, really good for that reason. However, this in particular change, being 1.5 seconds, is not very meaningful. So while the type of change is good, this specific change might not be as important. Because it's just, as I said, the decisions you make in that 1.5 seconds, plus the animations you're going to have to do to make those changes, to make those decisions, don't think it makes it a very meaningful change. Also, something to bear in mind as well is that generally, even though the barrier to entry goes down, the general player base skill goes up because everyone's going to have access to this skill. Right? Everyone's going to know the last 1.5 seconds of a smoke. And that might not be significant now, to be fair, and it might not be that significant in general, especially when you get to the higher levels. Everyone knows when their smoke is going to fade because they're timing the smoke, right? They know 8 seconds in advance, 10 seconds in advance, whatever, right? Okay, that's it for the video. I wanted to keep the skill floor stuff kind of light because I didn't want to go too far and make this video too long. So if you do have any questions about anything there, I might even go into more detail about it in the comments and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.